I invite you to take a moment to connect with your heart and body, to notice what is stirring in your heart and where in your body there are messages that you need to receive. To connect with the challenges in your life and the challenges of those.
For those who are not with us in person, this is the Valley Unitarian Universalist congregation, but I want to call you the Valley Unitarian Universalist community because it isn't just the people with their names on the book. It's the people with their names upon our hearts. Children, friends, neighbors, visitors, you are a community. And I am Fred Wooden, I am your interim minister. And I'm looking out and saying, I know these people. It's been a long time coming. It's hard to be a multi-platform congregation. And while we laugh about it, our wonderful audiovisual crew back there is trying to keep a lot of balls in the air all at once. And so we are grateful. What you're hearing is how the people or what is the Zoom feed, which goes out to them and then it comes back to us. It's complicated, very complicated. Every week I say it's a beautiful day in our neighborhood, just like Fred Rogers, because I'm a fellow Fred. And Arizona in April is just about as beautiful as it's allowed to get. But we are beautiful, not because we're in Arizona, but because we are the people who have been here more than half a century as an institution, looking for a century's worth of liberal religion in Greater Phoenix, along with other congregations. It is good to be with each other in the way we already knew. It is good to be with people in ways we did not know we could be with other people. But being together, however it happens, whether it's in this room, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's a conference call, whether it's just bumping into someone at the Fry's, it's good to be together. It is also beautiful, which is why it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. But sometimes we need help with the beauty part. But we're fortunate that we have young Chen Bai Shui, who as a wonderful pianist we've visited with before, will help us realize our beauty by sharing some on the piano as our prelude.
Thank you, Shen Bai Shui. That was beautiful. Good morning. All right. Welcome. Welcome to all of you on YouTube. Welcome to all of you in Zoom. And welcome to all of you in the sanctuary to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Ken St. John, and I am your associate in the worship service today. And it's time now to please to light our chalices, both here and at home, as we read together our chalice lighting words. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice. We'll now shift our focus to Katie, who's with us on Zoom today for the next musical piece.
Good morning. I'm Katie Seifert, the Director of Music Ministries, and I'm coming to you from Zoom. We're going to take a moment to say good morning to one another. So everybody on Zoom, let's go ahead and wave to everybody in the sanctuary. Give a big wave, maybe send some hearts, some love. We are thinking of you all in the sanctuary. And then Fred, you want to help everyone in the sanctuary say good morning back to us here?
I do, and you have to look at the cameras, not me. On the count of three, let's all say good morning to everyone on Zoom. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Katie, back to you.
So lovely to see all your faces, both here online and in the sanctuary. If you are in the sanctuary, go ahead and stand. You are welcome to stand at home as well, or stay where you're seated. And let's sing together. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot seek before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night.
Okay, scholars, here's the book that we're going to read together today on the storytelling.
Yeah, can we stop that for just a minute? So I've been hearing people talk about how it feels to be back in the sanctuary to sing, but to have so many of you here today, I definitely felt that today. So thank you all for being here and singing with us. That was fantastic. And while I'm feeling all happy and lovey, I want to introduce to you Skylar Barnes, our new faith formation assistant. Skylar grew up here at Valley UU, went through all of our education programs and OWL and coming of age. And just before the pandemic hit, we hired them to be in the classroom teaching kindergarten, first grade. And because I have witnessed the kind of teacher they are, they're going to finish out this school year because the kids are fantastic, and Skylar is amazing with that age children. So they work with me during the week, and then a little bit on Sunday mornings, but also will continue teaching for the rest of this school year. So thank you. So our Time for All Ages. If you have children at home who might be interested in our Time for All Ages, now is the time to bring them in front of the screen. And I want to share with you that I found a book that I thought would fit really well with Reverend Wooden's sermon series. The title is Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights by Rob Sanders, illustrated by Jared Andrew Shore. So this book addresses questions that kids may have about protesting and standing up for what is right and uniting around the common good. The author introduces abstract concepts like fighting for what you believe in and turns them into actionable items. And then I found a video that was made by the vice principal at Brooke Mattapan School, a charter elementary school in Boston. Now, these schools were named after the late Senator Edward W. Brooke, who was the first African-American popularly elected to the US Senate. In addition to reading this book, the school has added pictures and videos of their students and their families in action, protesting and marching. There's also a picture in there that you probably will recognize from the 50th anniversary of the marches from Selma to Montgomery. I thought this was an amazingly well done video, and I hope you do too.
Okay, scholars, here's the book that we're going to read together today on the storytelling day. It's called Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights. When I first read this book, I was reminded of you, your teammates, your families, our Brooke Mattapan community. In this book, you might hear words that you don't know the definition for. I want you to use the illustrations and also the pictures I'm connecting each page to from our Brooke Mattapan community to try to figure out what those words mean. You ready to read? Let's do it. Assemble. Take action. Create allies. Make buttons. Make banners. Make bumper stickers too. Boycott, boycott, boycott. Chant, cheer, call someone, campaign, camp out.
Justice now! Justice now!
Demonstrate. Don't give up. Don't give in. Educate, encourage, endure. Be fearless, fly a flag, file a lawsuit, have faith. Give time, give strength, give money if you can. Shake a hand, lend a hand. Have hope, be hope. Inquire, inform, imagine, Invite. Join others on the journey. Join others in the fight. Knit a hat. Take a knee. Listen, learn, lead. Light a candle, write a letter, pass laws. March, mediate, meditate, motivate.
Lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Organize, organize, organize. Parade, picket, post. Persist, persevere. Ask questions. Never quit. Do what's right. Read, remember, resist. Stand up. Speak out. Sit down. Sing loud. Be silent. Strike. Turn up the volume.
Justice now. Justice now.
Unite. Vote. Keep vigil. Volunteer. Be nonviolent. Wear it. Work for it. Wave it. Write about it.
My power is to change things what are not right.
Explain change. Exemplify change. Expect change. You can only do what you can do. So do it. zealous. Shake a hand, lend a hand, have hope, be hope.
I thought the addition of those kids from the community, those families, was really powerful. It was better than just having the book, so. All right, any children and adults going with us to class, if you'll go outside, remember we're gonna go through the glass foyer doors, because that door's loud, and we'll meet on the patio.
Nice. Hello again. I'm here to resume the welcome that I launched into during the chalice lighting. Next part goes like this. You may have been born in this country, immigrated from another country, or you may be a refugee seeking shelter, or just visiting. You are all welcome here. Your ancestors may be native to this land. They may have transplanted themselves here seeking freedom and prosperity, or been brought here against their will. Wherever we came from, whoever we are all welcome here now. I'd like to extend an especially warm welcome to any guests or first-time visitors today. If you're new on Zoom, then I encourage you to use the chat feature to make your presence known to the rest of the gallery. Any newcomers in the sanctuary are invited to stand briefly so that we can extend a warm greeting to you right now. Thank you. It's wonderful to have you with us. After the service, there will be opportunities for all to meet and greet in small groups, both online and in person, including a welcome circle at the back of the sanctuary, where especially helpful people want to meet you. And speaking of especially helpful people, the lay pastoral care associates this week are Randy Galbraith in the sanctuary, there he is in the back, and Janet Cantley on Zoom. They will also be on call all through the coming week for anyone who wanting to share their thoughts and feelings with a sympathetic listener. And in the sanctuary, you'll find Randy over to my left, to your right, in the front of the sanctuary after the service. Today, our esteemed interim minister, Reverend Dr. Fred Wooden, will be delivering the 5th episode of his 6-part series that marches him towards Montgomery, Alabama, and marches us towards Easter and the prospect of meeting our next settled minister soon after. Fred's recounting in his vivid narrative style has brought me closer to this historic march than I ever have felt before. It has me admiring his writing skills, and it has me thinking about my own personal American heritage, thinking which side of history were my ancestors on, and how do I feel about that? Now, I owe all that I know about my ancestors to my older brother, Ron St. John, who built on the work of our father, Ralph St. John Jr., to document our American family history from English immigrants in 1630 to the present. He presented this information in the form of a book with an entertaining writing style and lots of new insights into the history of our nation. So it turns out that I'm about 50% English with some trace amounts of French and Dutch. These were mostly the people who got in on the ground floor of the building of our prosperous nation. Some of my grandfathers were named as founders of small New England towns. So hoot out loud if you've been to Watertown, Massachusetts, or Wethersfield, Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, Ipswich, Massachusetts, or Williamstown, Vermont. For this, they often received land grants. Others of my distant grandfathers in that era were granted land as a reward for fighting in wars against the indigenous people. I had always felt a sense of guilt for the sins of my forefathers over the treatment of Native people during colonization. Now I have names of these fighting men with direct lineage to me, and that makes me feel even more uncomfortable. I was relieved to not find documented any slave ownership in my family's past, because I also feel race-based shame for my people's treatment of African Americans. But my other takeaway is that my American heritage included the opportunity for wealth in the form of these land grants. This has enhanced my awareness of the meaning of white privileged, and it has helped me to see how systemic racism is at least partly due to the correlation between race and wealth that was established as our nation evolved. This correlation makes our American caste system appear to be along racial lines rather than by wealth as intended, because free market capitalism is biased towards the wealthy by design. I'm also about 10% German, 10% Scottish, plus trace amounts of Irish and Swedish. These would be from subsequent waves of immigrants who may not have had the same level of opportunity, but they did come of their own free will and with the hope of a better life. The final 25% of me is from the most recent graft onto my family tree. My great-grandmother, Lillian Blumenfeld, was half Russian, half Romanian, and 100% Jewish. Her father, Peter Blumenfeld, escaped from Russia to Romania in 1877 to avoid inscription into the Tsar's army. There he married Ida Wolver Blumenfeld, and the two of them fled to Chicago in 1880, as things in Romania were not much better for Jews around then. Census documents from 1900 indicated that this was not a wealthy family, far from it. So they say that the USA is a great melting pot, and I'm apparently a product of that blending. My ancestors were both oppressors and oppressed. They were wealthy and they were poor. They fought on both sides of the Revolutionary War and most likely had aligned to both sides of the Civil War. They were Puritans, Quakers, Episcopalians, Lutherans, and Jews. I want to believe that they all did the best they could under their individual circumstances. And I think that they would expect me to do the same or better, me and my children going forward. So now Reverend Fred, okay, Reverend Fred will lead us forward in the remainder of our worship service.
Blumenfeld is German for flower field of flowers. And our flowers are blooming. As we head into the offering, before I snip those blossoms and put them in the plate, I want you to be able to sniff the flowers. Barb Quijada, the rest of our search committee, is here to share the aroma of hope. Come on, bring them all up, come on.
Good morning. We are the ministerial search committee that you selected almost a year and a half ago. I'm Barb Quijada, and these are committee members Janice Miller, Chris Saar, Carl Anderson, and Mary Rothschild. David Shea is one of our members, and he's Zooming from Pine this weekend. Hi, David. And we want to give a shout out to Adam Romney, who worked with us for a year before moving to Los Angeles in January. Today, our committee is thrilled to be able to introduce you to the person we enthusiastically and unanimously have selected to be our candidate for settled minister. And Libby's going to put some pictures up. The Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan is currently serving as interim minister at High Street UU Church in Macon, Georgia. Prior to that, she served as minister of the UU Fellowship in Topeka, Kansas. In a moment, we'll see a message from Reverend Sarah, but first we want to share a few reasons why we think she's perfect for VUU. We believe Reverend Sarah meets all the criteria you said were important to you when you took our survey last summer and attended cottage meetings in the fall. Reverend Sarah delivers thoughtful sermons, which you will have a chance to experience for yourself later this month. She has a great sense of humor, a wide-ranging intellect, and respect for the many different theological stances represented in our congregation. Reverend Sarah has great people skills and a natural pastoral presence. She sees VUU's pastoral care and caring neighbors teams as great assets, and we believe pastoral care to be one of her great strengths. Reverend Sarah speaks Spanish. She has worked with immigrants and refugees and has organized, attended, and spoken at legislative events, meetings with elected officials, rallies, press conferences, direct actions, and educational events on critical social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Your search committee believes Reverend Sarah will find the balance between respecting our traditions and innovating for the future. She's able, in her words, to accommodate both "I like it the way it is" and an openness to new people and new ideas. She's excited to help VUU create space for newcomers and for pandemic adjustments. Reverend Sarah understands and embodies shared ministry. We believe she will be a great fit for the culture of strong lay leadership at VUU. She describes herself as an extrovert who likes to collaborate and has collaborated with the committee and Reverend Fred over the last few days and the tech team to be able to say hello to you now via a video recording.
I invite you to take a moment to connect with your heart and body, to notice what is stirring in your heart and where in your body there are messages that you need to receive. To connect with the challenges in your life and the challenges of those you love and hold dear. To connect with the challenges of your community and people beyond your community whom you may never know, only know about. To connect with the environment around you, the rest of the living, breathing, growing, and struggling ecosystems of which we are all a part. In the chat, feel free to share the names of people and places that you hold in your heart now, whether in celebration and joy or in suffering and challenge. Whether you're facing deep-seated fears or uncovering wells of courage and simply finding your heartbeat and reminding who you were called to be in this moment.
Okay, and we have a script that we will post that is quite different from what we were just seeing. It was really a greeting to all of you, and we'll see if we will post the script for sure, and we'll see if we can get the video on. I'm really sorry that this is not presenting to you the dynamism of Reverend Sarah. She really is quite dynamic, and as you can, the one thing you can see is she's really short. When we took the picture of her in the pulpit for when she was here for pre-candidating weekend, which had to be kept very secret, we had to have a stand for her to stand on here. So she will be here April 23rd through May 1st to meet all of you in very, very different ways. And we'll try to get more information up on the website so that you can see her dynamic presence, because that really doesn't, the piece that you just saw really doesn't get it. No, we don't have those ready for today. So we'll be putting more up on the website and doing as much as we can, and we'd be glad to talk to you all about it. And we think this is just a dynamic candidate for you to greet. Good job. Okay.
Well, my work here is done. Almost. It is almost done. And that's appropriate because you're looking at a future and you can see what it looks like, which is fantastic. Are you excited? Yeah. Okay, now we're holding the offering. And I really mean that. You are always paying it forward at VUU. We never pay it back. We always pay it forward. And now you know which way you're pointed. So whether you're in the room, whether you're on Zoom, whether you have your phone or your purse, click, text, email, phone call, or as the ushers go by, put it in the plate. Today is the day when you get to make a down payment on your dream. And the bigger the down payment, the bigger the dream. And as we do that, let me remind folks that we have some wonderful music to help us go. And my script just went away. So whoever is Jen, are you doing that, Miss Yang? Or do we have a video? Did you take it, Ken? Did you take the order of worship? I did. Talk about privilege. From you, I received by my wonderful colleague, Kristen Grass. Kristen, oh, I wish I remembered it. Grass. She's wonderful. You'll see her name. Listen to her. Give money. Do it now. From you, I received. To thee, I give. Excellent.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
Now is our time for centering, where we take a moment to ground ourselves and to connect to something bigger than ourselves. This morning, I'd like to use poetry and music to help us do that. In honor of April being National Poetry Month, I'm highlighting American poet Langston Hughes, who is well known for his insightful depictions of Black life in America from the 1920s through the 60s. According to the Academy of American Poets, Hughes' life and work were enormously important in shaping the artistic offerings of the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s. And unlike no other notable Black poets of the period who spoke inwardly of esoteric matters, Hughes spoke outwardly while refusing to differentiate between his personal experience and the common experience of Black America. He told stories that reflected the suffering of Black Americans alongside their actual culture, such as their love of music, laughter, and their language. Here is I've Known Rivers by Langston Hughes. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. Please join now in singing, There's a River in My Soul.
There's a river flowing my soul. There's a river flowing my soul. And it's there that someone. There's a river flowing my soul. There's a river flowing my heart, in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's there that's all. There's a river flowing in my heart.
Wow. Our service is already rich beyond measure. So many great things already shared. A prayer at this point would be for gratitude, but that's a discipline, not a prayer. If you're not saying thank you every day, you're passing up 50% of what life's worth living. It's remarkable how good you feel when you say thank you. Isn't it wonderful? It's people think, oh, I'm going to feel weak. No, it feels empowering to say thanks. Because when you do that, the other person lights up. They've been seen, they've been heard. It's a value appreciation, value added transaction. That's why I spend so much time talking about the offering, because that has value. It's not just money, it's commitment. So as I think about our prayer today, I'm going back to thinking of the song we sang, From You I Receive. And when I learned it 30 years ago, it was from Thee I receive, to Thee I give. And I kind of miss that. You know, thee and thou, that isn't Jesus language, that isn't God language, that's English. And it's left over from when you spoke to someone you knew well as thou, someone you didn't know well as you. What do you think? Tell me how's it going in thy soul? And I wonder if we wouldn't be better off putting a little thee and thou in place of our you and yours. How's it going with thy soul? The person who matters to me. I think we should try that a little more. So I won't call you beloved because I don't know you well enough to presume that. But I will say, thou art grand. Thou art wonderful. Thou art my people. And when I leave you, you will always be thee to me. Jen Bai Shui, you have some beautiful music, don't you? From Mr. Bach, who used thee and thou better than anybody I know. Shall we relax into that love? Thank you, thou wonderful piano player. If you're new today, and I saw you out there, I don't usually dress this way. In fact, I am frequently the only person here on Sunday with a necktie and a jacket, because I take seriously the role not of being dressed, but of being ready for you. And how I dress is a way of making ready to be in front of you. But since you are new, I owe you an explanation, which is that I have, as Ken mentioned, been walking you along a week-long journey by foot from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, that I took back in the fall of 19, just before COVID reared its ugly head. And I thought, since I couldn't show you a lot of photographs, I'm not good at that, I could show you what were my companions. Most important, Mr. Walking Stick here, the only one that went the whole distance with me beside my shoes. And you'd be surprised if you do walking on a day-to-day basis, that stick becomes very important. It becomes the pace setter, the companion, the thing you literally lean on. It's powerful and kind. The backpack doesn't really hold my clothing, but it holds things I need, like an extra pair of socks for when my feet get wet, which they did. A little bit of food, maybe a notebook, the things that you can't do without. I'm wearing those kind of pants you can zip off. I have ugly knees, so I'll spare you. But when they get wet, they dry in a hurry. I'm wearing my t-shirt and my hoodie, although then I might wear a fleece. But it was, if you remember, and early in my journey, when I stopped at the Interpretive Center in Lowndes County, they sell ball caps. Everybody sells a ball cap now. And it says Selma to Montgomery National Historic Trail. And I wore it every day for a week, and it got rained on and sweat upon and dusty. It's precious. So now you know what I looked like. You already know what I felt like. Now you know what I look like, so I can take this stuff off, right? I'll wear a tie next week. It'll be Palm Sunday. It's worth dressing up. So I'm on my 4th day, Ken, not my 5th. I got 2 more days to go and 2 more Sundays. And some of you might remember that part of my spiritual discipline is, first of all, I wake up god awful early just because that's the way I'm built. Would you like to know what time I woke up this morning? 4 a.m. I did then too, and I do what ministers do. I read the flippin' Bible. Except I try to read it in Hebrew, because that way I'm learning something, and I'm learning it differently. And I read it in the sequence that my Jewish community would follow. And it's called it's a portion, a parasha. And the portion that day begins with the word lech lecha. It's redundant because it means take yourself out. Take yourself. And it's the words that are there when God talks to Abram and says, take yourself out of the land of your fathers and go that away. And I realized that's exactly what I was doing. I opened to a portion so old that no one knows if it actually happened. It probably did not. But the most important moment, the thing that dates every Abrahamic religion, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is a moment in legendary history when a man named Abram in the city of Ur heard a voice saying, get up and go. Think about it. Our spiritual lives have been on the move ever since. When you think about it, the whole book of Genesis is a book of journeys. What happens? Adam and Eve screw it up and they're thrown out of the garden. They're on their own. They got to leave. Noah had to get in a boat to take a journey from nowhere to nowhere. God dispersed all the people and sent them off to different places by changing their languages. Abram gets up from Ur and goes to Canaan, a place he never even heard of. In the end, the whole crew of descendants leaves Canaan, goes down into Egypt. And by the end of Torah, are they in Israel? No, they're still camping. The entire of Torah is a people on the move. And if you thought I was a pilgrim for a weird reason, now you know why. Because as I think about my personal passage from Selma to Montgomery, I begin to hear a personal bass note, not just a spiritual one. Yeah, that's what we do as religious people. We're on the move. James Luther Adams calls us a pilgrim church. And by God, we are, as we move along in beliefs and feelings and understandings. But it's my story too. When I was a young child, my first earliest memory is being in an automobile, moving. My second oldest memory is moving into a townhouse. I can't remember where we came from, but I remember moving in and the movers carrying in the furniture. 2 years later, after that, we moved into a house. And I remember moving into the house. 4 years after that, we moved from Silver Spring, Maryland to Baltimore, Maryland. 9 years later, we moved from Baltimore to Detroit. A week or two after we got to Detroit, I was off to college in St. Louis. I have lived since in Vermont, Chicago, Massachusetts, Texas, Brooklyn, New York, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and now Phoenix, Arizona. I am tired. Journeys have defined my life and confined it. They have decided who I am, and I've decided what they are. If home is where you belong, do all these moves explain why I've never really felt at home anywhere? This is what happens when you travel in body and mind. You go along and you start thinking strange and bizarre thoughts. I'm out there on the road from Selma to Montgomery. Where am I going? Where have I been? Am I heading away from home or toward it? I have no idea, but I know I'm on the way somewhere. And then another tone, another sound hits my head. Jews have been wandering for 2,000 years. They were kicked out of Palestine in the year 130 AD, not even their number. And not until 1949 were they able to go back without having to hide themselves. Passover Seders, maybe you've been to one. The end of every one of them ends with these words, next year in Jerusalem. Year after year, waiting to go back to a place most of them never saw. When Dr. King spoke at the Lincoln Memorial, he said of his people that they are in exile in their own land. Wandering. Langston Hughes, in his other great poem, Let America Be America Again, said that those who came here, like Ken's ancestors, like mine, came here in search of what I meant to be my home. They left home to find home. Is it any wonder our lives are shaped by journeys? With that in mind, I'm back at Casey's General Store on the road west of Montgomery by a few miles. This is where I was picked up yesterday, and the same cats are lying on the parking lot that I left behind. My ride dropped me off around 8 a.m. Another member of the local Unitarian Universalist Church, each of whom have graciously picked me up and dropped me off on my personal pilgrimage. Each of them tells me their story as I'm listening in the car. It's like being a therapist while sitting in the back seat. This one, Ken, another Ken. He tells me he's a San Francisco native, that he served under fire in Vietnam. He re-enlisted because he didn't have another job. Then he served in Germany. Then he taught English in Korea and Thailand. Then he got married, had children, and the last act of his life, which brings me up to date, is he came out as gay in late midlife. And he thinks I'm on a journey. But every one of them had a story like that. Do you remember Emerald, the trans woman who delivered me to Selma? A story far more strenuous than I can imagine. I was delivered of bad news after that sermon 4 weeks ago. Norm Wagner, a member here, who was a member there, who picked me up in the rain, told me by email that Emerald took her life a year later, even less, because being trans in Alabama, being trans anywhere, is just plain hard. There are no visual reminders of the 1965 march. Remember, pilgrimages aren't all full of glory. Most of them are just full of steps. For the first 3 hours, I'm just walking along the highway, encountering more roadkill, trying to avoid becoming roadkill. I pass a doe that was just hit last night. I can tell because she looks fresh, almost alive, except for her glassy eyes that are open. I see a bird, a large bird, its wings outstretched, its tail splayed in the heavy grass. Death is never far away, if you notice. Off in a pond away from the road, I think I spy a large water bird, very much alive. I think of the heron that was sitting in the drainage ditch in Selma, or the ibis I saw in Zimbabwe back in the earlier spring, or the heron that I know that perches on a rock in the Grand River near where I live. Birds everywhere around us, indifferent to us, hoping we'll get out of their way no matter what we're doing. And then jolting me from the reverie of all these birds coming back to me, a wild roar in the sky, and I look up and a fighter jet has just zoomed across in front of me, tearing into the sky, followed by another in quick succession. The airport is not far away. For the next 2 hours, I hear and see them making loops overhead. I go around a curve and a dozen motorcycles come roaring by in a pack, as predicted, driven by older men in leather jackets with black helmets and long hair and plenty of stars and bars on their backs. I stand back in the rough against the fence of another large field of cotton now picked, with their cotton stems going on endless, with their stems going on for miles. The whole field looks like something Dr. Seuss would have put in one of his books, preferably for those pale green pants to hide in. Though I approach the airport, the cotton fields are all I can see. And in the fields, even in the picked fields, I see these large farm homesteads that are looking their best to be like those antebellum plantations, with their gentility and Southern hospitality, an image we've all imbibed long before, realizing that all this gentility was made possible because it rested on a basis of human cruelty. My journey has daily reminded me of how pervasive the legacy of slavery is. I saw it in obvious places like the story of Bloody Sunday on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Then I saw it in the way cotton defined the land and the people, everyone, even those who were at the top of the heap. And now I see these large modern homes and see how they're based on the plantation mansions and the refined taste they represent. My mother-in-law, long since deceased, someone I tried very hard to love, subscribed to Southern Living magazine. Anyone ever heard of it? It still exists. It's largely about food, but I found their mission statement. It reads like this: it must be and will be in every issue as thoroughly Southern as crepe myrtle, longleaf pine, Mardi Gras, fig preserves, and black-eyed peas. And it should succeed because the editors understand the power of Southern identity, which indeed includes crepe myrtle, longleaf pine, Mardi Gras, fig preserves, black-eyed peas, slaves, Jim Crow, and brutality. But the magazine doesn't generally go there. But what propels the defense of the stars and bars, the names of Confederate generals on parks and various statues, but the same thing, Southern identity. You can't cut off one end of a magnet, friends. If you want the gentility and the juleps and the fig pie and the crepe myrtle, you got to take the whips, the chains, and the whites only as well. Of course, we say that about the South. Let's remember that we who don't live there are still there. My mother-in-law did not live in the South. She lived in suburban Baltimore, where I grew up. Yes, it's below the Mason-Dixon line, but not by much. And houses like the ones she admired were being built, still are being built in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Akron and Albany and any place we aspire to the refined life. Columns and pediments and porticos, the sort of house successful people want from coast to coast. Across the highway from one of these modern Southern homesteads, I see another house with plain outbuildings and old farm equipment left in the yard, anything but refined, but it's just as Southern. If you've ever been in the South, you know what I mean. This is where the white trash lived, which we look down upon only slightly less than Black people. Between the rich white and the poor Black were the poor whites. These are the folks who did the dirty work of Jim Crow. The powerful did not swing the baseball bat that killed Jim Reeve or shoot the gun that killed Viola Liuzzo. No, it was those ordinary people, the ones defending Southern identity because it was all that kept them from being Black. Along the road, I see a number of household objects in the grass and realize that someone was moving and put everything in the back of a pickup truck and they fell off at some point in the last few weeks. Everything was dust and dirty, but I could see the household plates, the clothes, the cracked frame photographs of the man in uniform wearing his sergeant's stripes with great pride. Someone's life was just left by the road by accident. When did they notice it was gone? And I suddenly feel very uneasy, as though I'd wandered into someone's room, someone's bedroom, and was looking in their drawers. I remember a passage from the Gospels. Yes, I do read the Gospels, so should you. To those who have, much more will be given. But to those who have little, even what they have will be taken away. Sounds like America to me. But that's Jesus telling us the truth we all know, that the rich always seem to get richer even when they're not trying, and the poor get poorer no matter how hard they try. Jesus is also saying, or at least implying, that the rich get wealthy by taking it from the poor, whether they be white or Black. And is it any wonder that the poor white feels more threatened by the poor Black because there's so little left at the table that that's all there is to fight over. At a gas station by the airport, I get a drink and take a rest by squatting on the curb in the shade of the building. From here, the rest is going to be more like walking in a city. Amid the strip malls and the gas stations, I notice a small concrete pillar, very small, marked with vertical letters, Highway 80, and on the other side, Sunnybrook. It's an old mileage marker. Anybody older than me remember those old concrete mileage markers before they had the big signs? Was probably here 50 years ago. I'm seeing finally something Dr. King looked at as he walked by. Not too far from this, 20 yards back from the road, is a low sign that says the Black Seed Wailing Wall, which as I approached proved to be plywood painted black with a cross in front of it draped with a cloth. It's the attempt by a church off in the woods to lift up the deaths of young Black men by police. Doesn't quite have the impact intended, I think, because it's scarcely 5 feet high and barely visible from the highway and peeling. Nobody on the highway notices, of course. I leave Highway 80 for Route 31. Now the gas stations are selling Hughes Brothers Pizza and crispy chicken, it says with an exclamation point. The logo shows a chicken licking its beak, which somehow makes me think the chicken is guilty of cannibalism. There's a cluster of old bungalows from the 1930s, which calls itself the Southwest Plaza and has planted all around it prickly pear cactus bursting with purple fruit and cut out saguaro cactuses. More strip malls and their small businesses. It could be any of 1,000 cities in America until lurking in the grass along the pavement, almost hidden by the shrubbery, is a new dental office. I see beside a new dental office, I spy another marble marker. This is a slab. It was placed there some time ago and it reads, entrance to the cradle of the Confederacy. Placed here by the Sophia Bibb Charter UDC, 1928. If you don't know UDC, that means United Daughters of the Confederacy. So this is the city line, but it's more than a city line. It's a proclamation. You are entering the cradle of the Confederacy. Montgomery was the first capital of the Confederacy, very briefly, and the state capital served as the national capital, very briefly. And now I see yet another layer of why the marchers came here. They were not marching on the capital of Alabama. They were marching on the capital of the Confederacy, founded on the principle of subjugating them. Selma to Montgomery was a march on everything that had turned them into the people they wished never to have been. Oh, there have been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, said Sam Cooke. Did you hear him earlier? There have been times when I thought I couldn't last for long. If it seems we white people spend too much time on the race problem, consider how little time we spent on it, we white people, between 1865 and 1965. If we're spending too much time on it now, that's a debt that's accumulated a lot of interest. Has it occurred to anyone that making resistance exhausting is itself a strategy for discouraging resistance? It's a Sisyphean task to go up again and again to the state capitals, to the long marches, to the petition drives, and say the same thing over and over again and get nothing back. Soon I see another marker, one that honors a local hero who rallied the students at nearby Alabama State University to join the march when it arrived. Just after they crossed the city line, local citizens began to join the march. Remember, there were only 300 from Selma onward, and now they became thousands. And they arrived at a place called St. Jude City, a large campus with a Catholic church and a school, the only school on that side of town where blacks and whites could learn together. And there's a huge field behind it, and that's where they camped for the night. And as the marchers arrived, the locals cheered at them as if they were Roman heroes, according to the historical marker. They spent the night, and they had a concert that night because people were watching them. Who was there to perform for them that night? Sammy Davis Jr., Peter, Paul, and Mary, and the one who organized it all, Harry Belafonte. And now I think of what Sam Cooke then said, but now I think I'm able to carry on. Believe me, if Sammy Davis showed up, I'd keep walking. If Peter, Paul, and Mary were singing, I'd walk as far as I could go to get there. If Harry Belafonte said jump, I would say how high. And now we know how we keep going. Because there's something worth going. If you've ever been tired and found new energy, when someone goes along, that's what happened. There's an interpretive center, according to the sign. I go behind the church, it's closed. Between it and the church is a plaza, and there's the sculpture of the homeless Jesus. Anyone saw that? Homeless Jesus, you don't see him. It's just a figure under a blanket on a park bench. Aroused a great deal of controversy. Was commissioned by the pastor of the church. Every time he wanted to put that statue someplace, nobody wanted it because it wasn't respectful to Jesus. It's the most respectful Jesus statue ever made, as far as I'm concerned. So I sat down next to Jesus on the bench. There's room for one. We rested a while. And I looked down at the sidewalk and realized it's one of those sidewalks where people bought a brick and had their names put on it. And I read them. Walter Sangranetta Jr. and Gwendolyn, we were here, 3/24/65. Charles Malden, Bloody Sunday, 50-mile march. Odessa Redden, foot soldier for the 1965 march. Dorothy Thomas, beloved in the dream, marched in 1965. Mr. Lewis H. Smith and his wife, Mrs. Johnny Smith. That's another Johnny, by the way. I was in the march, it said on the brick. There are dozens more. On the ground where their feet stood are the bricks that said, I was here and I will not be forgotten. Who needs an interpretive center? The witnesses are under my feet and have been the whole way. I don't need to know. All I have to do is listen. Bricks that talked. Anyone here ever hear someone talking about how the stones would shout? But I get ahead of myself. That's next week's story. If you know your Bible, that is. And so be it. And amen. I would invite my wonderful colleague in ministry, Katie, to lead us in our closing hymn.
Thank you, Reverend Fred. Wow. To circle back to your opening words, we get up and we go out. We go out in our actions and our fight to do better and our asking of others to do better. We go out in our questioning and our openness to learn. And we go out in our expansion of our love that cuts through our human tendencies to judge, to criticize. We learn, we love, and we act. And we will not stop singing, marching, praying, shouting until the world can hear this song, until the world can sing along. So please join. Stand in the sanctuary, if you will. Stand at home or stand in your heart with these powerful words in our closing hymn. We will not stop.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get
What you don't know is that four of those singers are members of my former church. I see their faces singing at me, and that's what happens when you sing. Your voice goes further than you'll ever know. So keep on singing, because someone will need to hear your voice soon, and it will get you to get up and keep moving, because the journey is won not by those who trudge, but by those who dance and make joy in the going. And isn't that what we're here to do? To make joy in the going. Ken, let's get out of here.
Time for extinguishing our chalices both here and at home. Let us read these words together. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Now, Shen Bai Shui will serenade us with some Beethoven as we go out in the world this week to do good. Please go in peace.
You guys in the main room should be able to unmute yourselves now. You guys who are in here should be able to unmute yourselves now.
Main session.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.